Hey everyone, this is Jerry with San Pedro Mastery. My apologies for not having released videos on a more timely basis in the past 2 months. I've had visit from family for the holidays and I've been busy with other projects. I plan to upload more regularly this year. I do have a lot of ideas for future videos that I'm quite excited about. So let's start with the first video of the year. Today I will show you how you can plant a large cutting so that it makes a maximum amount of roots. In this video, we're going to be potting these 5 Trichocereus Peruvianus, a plant also known as Peruvian Torch. It is a relative to the San Pedro. But you probably already know that, since the Peruvian Torch is one of the best known sacred cacti. I got these 5 plants thanks to Suriel, who is a really cool guy who I met through the channel. We collected these cuttings together a few months ago, and I just had them sit on this table waiting to be planted. When you have unrooted cuttings like these, you want to avoid them staying for too many weeks or months laying horizontally, because the part of the plant that touches the table, or the floor or ground, will eventually cork and make roots. Thankfully, that did not happen here, because this plant is very spiny, and that kept the skin from actually touching the table. You may notice the cuts are very rough. Believe it or not, I like to use an axe to cut adult San Pedros. But in that particular case, I did not have my favorite tool handy. So I started the cut with a handsaw, and then I tilted each piece until it broke. The open cuts were then dragged on the soil and they got very dirty. When I pick up cuttings from a cactus planted in the ground outdoors, a plant that is very healthy, I never bother to disinfect the blades, and I don't clean the cuts either afterwards. I leave them dirty, and I've never had any problem. If the plant is healthy, it will fight off an infection. But the key thing here is to leave the plants outside with good air circulation until the cuts are healed. And the healing time is usually about 1 week per inch of diameter. Here on this table, the sun does not reach during the winter. I prefer the plants to be out of the sun while the cuts heal. But if you can only put yours in the sun, that should be fine as well. After all, in nature, the pieces that are broken off by the wind do not choose whether they fall in the sun or in the shade. If you don't have a terrace or a garden, you can place your freshly cut pieces on a small balcony or on a window ledge, providing it cannot be stolen or fall down onto some passerbys down below. The air movement outside should prevent your cuttings from molding and from rotting. You can also heal cuttings inside your house. It's less ideal, but if you aim a small fan at the cut end, that should work. You should try to avoid healing cuttings in your house, but there are cases where you just have to, if you don't have any place outside to place the cuttings, or if it's winter and you live in a cold country. Once the cutting has healed, you can plant it directly in its final pot, which is what I usually do. It's the easiest. But here in this video I will show you another option, which is to first make the plant root, and then, months later, transfer it to its final pot. This option requires a bit more work, but it is likely to give you more roots, bigger ones, and you will get those faster. And obtaining a large root system faster is a good way to make sure the cutting starts growing again at full capacity, which will prevent etiolation. What I will show you in this video is the first part of the job, which is to make the cuttings root. I will most likely upload another video in a few months where I will show you how much the plants have rooted and how I replant them in their final pots. In order for the cuttings to make a lot of roots, you need a very loose and very light soil. Perlite is the best ingredient to reach that goal, as it is very light and allows the soil to breathe. The recipe I use is about 75% perlite and 25% regular potting soil. Such a soil mix that is so rich in perlite is only good for rooting. It has way too much perlite to hold the plant stable, and it is not fertile enough for the San Pedro. These proportions of 75-25 are just there to give you an idea, and you don't have to follow them exactly. What you want to achieve is a very light and airy soil where the air is going to circulate very easily around the roots. You can use a normal pot, but here I am using these air pots, which were originally designed for growing cannabis. They're inexpensive, they ship flat, and take very little time to assemble. They have holes all over them to promote air circulation and therefore root growth. This kind of pot, combined with my very light soil mix, means there will be plenty of roots. I will start by placing 2 or 3 inches of the soil mix we've prepared at the bottom of the pot. Next, I will pick up one of the cuttings and place it in it. To grab a plant with such spines, you should use an old magazine. Do not pick it up with leather gardening gloves, as these kind of spines will go through leather very easily. Some people like to cut off the spines that are going to be below soil level. I don't, as I feel it gives the plant extra stability. However, you have to be careful not to harm yourself with the spines when you repot the plant in a few months. I now pour more soil mix around the plant. You don't want to compact the soil too much. It must stay light and loose. Don't worry about stability. I'm going to attach the top of the cutting to a support of some kind so that the plant does not fall over. This way, stability is provided by something else than the soil itself. When I repot the plant in a few months, then it will be okay to compact the soil a bit more to give the plant stability. By then, the plant will have grown a large root system. Hopefully, I should add, as rooting is rather unpredictable. Sometimes it roots in a matter of days, sometimes it takes months. Here I am planting the cutting in January, which is not ideal. But the plants have already been waiting on a table for a few months, and I don't want to wait until spring, as their appearance may start worsening. As I was filling the pot with soil, the top of the plant was resting on some shutters. This allows me to do the job by myself without anyone helping me. I only had 4 air pots available, so I planted the 5th cutting in a regular square plastic pot. It will be interesting to see if it rooted less than the 4 air pots. We will see that in a few months. Here are the 5 cuttings in their pots. It is very important that you place the pots somewhere with good air circulation, as it will make your efforts more worthwhile. So try not to squeeze together the pots in a corner of your terrace. Here they are in the middle of my terrace. The plants are resting onto some IKEA metal racks, and I use zip ties to make sure they don't tip over with the wind. Some people like to slice the bottom of the ribs at an angle in order to create a larger area of calloused surface, so that in theory more roots come out of it. I intend to do a test in a video this year to compare slicing the cuttings that way as opposed to just making a straight cut, and we will see which way gives us more roots. There are also people who use rooting hormones, and some of these products can be toxic, so I do not recommend using them. However, there are also more natural ways to promote root growth, such as applying honey to the calloused part, or dip it in water mixed with honey. And I also would like to test this in a video later on this year, so keep your eyes peeled for that. Like I said earlier, I will show the final potting of these plants in a future video. When we do the final potting, I'll probably reuse the soil that you see here, but I'll add a lot of regular potting soil until the part of perlite is reduced to about a quarter or a third. When I release a video, there are always questions from you guys, and one I can already foresee is whether or not you should water an unrooted cutting once it is potted. Absolutely not. The plant cannot absorb water until it has roots. In fact, a soil that is soggy is likely to make the flesh rot. We will wait for a few months, then gently take the plant out of its pot, make sure it has roots, then repot it, and then and only then we will be able to water it. Here the plant is placed in the open. It is not covered, which means it will rain on it. This is not ideal, but here in Barcelona it does not rain very often and the winters are very mild. So the soil will dry up fairly quickly, especially with these air pots and such a loose soil. However, if it were to rain too much in this winter, then I would probably try to cover them with a plastic tarp, something tough that can handle the spines. That's it, all for now, my friends. Be sure to check out my other video if you're new to the channel. Make sure you like this video, subscribe, tick the notification bell, and I'll see you very soon with more tutorials on how to grow the San Pedro and peyote. Cheers!